Welcome to the Reality Revolution. This is the ultimate timeline activation for supernatural awareness. We are activating your true intuition within you in this activation. In the silence between your thoughts, in the space where time seems to pause, there exists a form of knowing so profound, so immediate that it renders all learning knowledge obsolete. Yet each time you've reached for this knowing, this intuitive intelligence that transcends the rational mind, you felt it slip away like water through your fingers, haven't you? What if I told you that this isn't your failure? What if the intuitive abilities you've been seeking through meditation and practice are actually being blocked by an invisible frequency fence installed in your consciousness? A perceptual filter deliberately designed to separate you from your natural state of omniscient awareness. The cutting edge of neuroscience has recently detected what the ancient mystery schools concealed in symbol and metaphor. Your brain contains dormant neural pathways that, when activated, allow consciousness to perceive beyond space and time. Your intuitive abilities are not something to develop. They are something to remember, not something to achieve, something to unveil, not something to become, something to return to. Every child is born with this perceptual capacity intact. Every indigenous culture preserved these abilities as their birthright. Every mystical tradition at its core was designed to restore what civilization deliberately obscured. In the next few minutes, you'll access a specific activation sequence that permanently removes the barriers between your conscious mind and your infinite knowing. This isn't spiritual theory, this is practical consciousness technology that reconfigures your neurological wiring to restore your natural state of supernatural perception. This is an activation utilizing specific sequences and patterns of words and frequencies to create a change in your consciousness. Before I reveal this sacred activation code, one that has been suppressed for millennia by those who understand that an intuitively awakened population cannot be controlled, I need to explain why these abilities have been deliberately dampened in human consciousness. There was a time when humans navigated reality through direct knowing rather than learned information, when we could sense danger before it appeared, when we could communicate across vast distances without technology, when we could perceive the invisible currents that shape physical events. This capacity wasn't mystical, it was biological. It wasn't supernatural, it was natural, and its systematic suppression might be the greatest untold story in human history. A story that ends today with you reclaiming what has always been yours. Let me speak directly to where you stand right now with your intuitive faculties. You've experienced it, haven't you? That moment when you knew who was calling before the phone rang. That inner warning that made you change your route only to later discover an accident on your usual path. That inexplicable knowing about a loved one in trouble confirmed moments later. Yet these glimpses, these tantalizing moments of direct knowing, come and go like radio signals in a storm. Present one moment, gone the next, leaving you questioning, was that real intuition or just coincidence? Was that genuine perception or just my imagination? This inconsistency isn't a reflection of your capability. Let me say that again. Your intuitive inconsistency is not a reflection of your spiritual development or innate ability. You've been operating with a fragmented intuitive system, experiencing brief moments when your natural perception breaks through the frequency barrier, only to be suppressed again by the perceptual filters installed in your consciousness. Now I want you to glimpse something extraordinary, not with your physical senses, but with your mind's eye. See the version of you that exists right now in a parallel timeline where these perceptual barriers were never installed, where your intuitive faculties remain as open and clear as they were the day you were born. This version of you doesn't struggle to access intuitive information. They don't question their inner knowing. They don't dismiss their premonitions. They navigate reality through a constant stream of direct perception. They know without learning. They understand without analyzing. They see what others miss because they're perceiving reality through all 12 senses, not just the 5 that modern civilizations acknowledge. In that timeline, you don't doubt your intuition, you trust it implicitly. Guidance isn't something you seek, it's something you receive continuously. Clear knowing isn't occasional, it's your natural state of awareness. This version of you moves through the world as a natural seer, a living, breathing antenna for universal intelligence, a conscious perceiver of realities beyond the visible spectrum. But here's what's truly magnificent about this version of you. The intuitive clarity that they experience isn't just about predicting future events or reading energies. It's about what this perception provides. It's about the clarity that comes when you no longer struggle to make decisions because you can instantly sense the potential outcomes of each choice. Your future self in your optimal timeline has this ability, and that's why this unique and specific activation is important in our overall activation journey. It's about the guidance that flows when you can perceive the invisible current shaping physical events, allowing you to navigate life with profound precision. It's about the protection that surrounds you when you can sense danger before it materializes, when you can distinguish truth from deception instantly, when you can feel which paths lead to fulfillment and which lead to distress. And ultimately, it's about purpose, about recognizing why your soul chose this incarnation, what you came here to contribute, and how to align with your highest timeline. That intuitively awakened version of you isn't separate from the you sitting here now. They aren't distant. They're simply occupying the adjacent reality stream that you're about to step into. Here's what you need to understand. What separates those with occasional intuitive hits from those who navigate reality with constant supernatural awareness is not more practice, or better techniques, or stronger spiritual gifts. It's a fundamental shift in perceptual identity, a complete recalibration of who you know yourself to be at the quantum level. Now later on, we're going to perform this perception activation together. We'll literally rewrite your intuitive blueprint in the field of consciousness. But first, we need to understand the hidden mechanics of intuition that makes this possible. When was the last time you felt it? The whisper of knowing that precedes thought, that flash of insight that arrives complete without reason or evidence. Perhaps it was the dream that later played out in waking life, the voice that warned you away from danger, the inexplicable certainty about a person you just met, the solution that appeared in your mind fully formed. These aren't random glitches in your perception. They're glimpses through the cracks in a perceptual prison, momentary breakthroughs of your natural state of omniscient awareness. Yet how quickly the rational mind dismisses these experiences, how readily we label them as coincidence, imagination, wishful thinking, how easily we surrender our most extraordinary faculty to the tyranny of logic and reason. I understand this struggle, the doubt that follows intuitive knowing, the frustration of experiences you can't explain or replicate, the profound disconnect between what you've glimpsed and what you can consistently access. In this reality which already exists as your potential, you move through life with supernatural clarity. You perceive the invisible architecture behind physical events. You sense the thoughts and intentions of others before they speak. You recognize the higher patterns guiding seemingly random circumstances. Feel what it would be like to navigate a business meeting with complete awareness of everyone's hidden agendas. to instantly distinguish truth from deception without doubt or analysis, to sense which path leads to fulfillment and which leads to distress, not as vague feeling, but as clear as reading a map. This heightened perception gives you more than just information. It provides unshakable clarity in a world of confusion. It offers guidance that never misleads, unlike the fallible advice of others. It creates a shield of protection as you sense danger before it materializes. And it reveals your deepest purpose by connecting you to the cosmic intelligence that orchestrated your incarnation. The ancient Greeks understood this faculty as gnosis, directly knowing without intermediate steps. Eastern traditions called it prajna, transcendent wisdom beyond intellectual understanding. Indigenous cultures simply acknowledged it as our natural way of perceiving reality, before civilization divorced us from our perceptual birthright. The difference between those rare individuals who navigate life with consistently accurate intuition and those who experience only occasional glimpses is not genetic. It isn't spiritual advancement. It isn't even practice. It's a fundamental difference in perceptual identity and how they know themselves in relation to information. What we're exploring isn't new to human consciousness. It's ancient, older than written history itself. The megalithic temples of Malta were designed as acoustic chambers that amplified theta brainwaves, inducing states of non-local perception in their initiates. The oracle at Delphi accessed prophecy through neuromagnetic anomalies that modern geologists have only recently detected. The Egyptian mystery schools had a sophisticated understanding of what they called remote viewing thousands of years before government intelligence agencies rediscovered these techniques. In ancient Greek, the Eleusinian mysteries utilized specific plant compounds to temporarily dissolve the neurological barriers between conscious and superconscious perception. In Tibet, advanced practitioners mastered lungam, the ability to perceive and manipulate fields beyond ordinary reality. Native traditions across 6 continents preserve techniques for dreaming across timelines, accessing knowledge from probable futures to guide present decisions. These weren't primitive attempts at understanding consciousness. They were sophisticated technologies developed by civilizations that recognized intuition as our primary perceptual system, not as a secondary gift for the spiritually advanced. Modern science is finally catching up to what these ancient cultures understood intuitively. Quantum non-locality, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, has been repeatedly confirmed by experiments at Princeton, Stanford, and most recently by researchers at Delphi University. Consciousness doesn't require physical proximity to influence or perceive reality. Neuroplasticity research at the HeartMath Institute has demonstrated that the heart perceives events before they occur, sending signals to the brain up to 7 seconds before these events happen in physical reality. The field of presentiment research has documented that human autonomic systems respond to stimuli before these stimuli are presented, suggesting our bodies know the future before our conscious minds register it. This isn't fringe science. It's peer-reviewed research published in journals like Physics Essays, Journal of Scientific Exploration, and Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. Yet most spiritual teachings continue to treat intuition as something rare and special, a gift bestowed upon the few, a capacity that requires decades of disciplined practice to develop. This perpetuates the very perceptual prison it claims to help you escape. It reinforces the false belief that your natural state of omniscient awareness is something distant and difficult to achieve, rather than your birthright temporarily hidden behind artificial barriers. If meditation alone unlocked these abilities, wouldn't every long-term meditator demonstrate consistent supernatural perception? Conventional intuitive development approaches ask you to work towards something that's already completely within you. It's like teaching a fish to swim when it already knows how, but its knowledge has been temporarily suppressed. This isn't semantic wordplay, it's a fundamental reconfiguration of how you understand your relationship to information itself. The ancient mystery schools didn't teach techniques to develop intuition. They performed activations to restore it. They didn't add something new to consciousness, they removed the barriers to what was already there. Before I reveal these principles, you need to understand the critical missing piece in intuitive development. It isn't practice, it isn't technique, it's something far more fundamental, a mechanism so powerful that once activated, it automatically restores your natural perceptual state. This missing piece is what separates those who struggle to develop their intuition from those who perceive multiple dimensions as naturally as you perceive color. It's what determines whether your intuitive knowing comes in whispers or thunders with unmistakable clarity. And after I explain the 3 universal principles of supernatural perception, I'm going to give you the exact activation code to implement this missing piece in your consciousness permanently. The first universal principle of supernatural perception is what is called the quantum perception field. This principle reveals something extraordinary about your awareness. It doesn't just observe reality, it directly participates in creating which intuitive information becomes available to you. In quantum physics, observations determine which potential reality manifests from infinite possibilities. Similarly, your perceptual expectation, your belief about what information is available to you, determines which intuitive streams become accessible to your conscious awareness. This is an abstract theory. When neuroscientists track brain activity during intuitive experiences, they discover something remarkable. Your neural patterns respond to information before your conscious mind registers it. Your brain literally processes future events before they occur in physical space-time. To understand this mechanism more deeply, envision the cosmic intelligence network. Imagine a vast luminous web of information, infinite in all directions, with every strand containing complete knowledge of past, present, and future possibilities. Your consciousness is not separate from this network, it's a focal point within you. You're not reaching for information that exists outside of you. You're tuning into streams of knowing that already flow through you continuously. Think of yourself not as a seeker of intuitive knowledge, but as a receiver already positioned within an ocean of omniscient awareness. The question isn't how to find intuitive information. It's how to notice what's already streaming through your consciousness at every moment. This distinction between seeking and receiving transforms everything. When you approach intuition as something to seek, you create a perceptual distance between yourself and what you desire to know. You reinforce the illusion of separation that blocks clear perception. But when you shift to receiving mode, extraordinary things happen. Information arrives without effort. Knowing precedes thinking. Clarity emerges without analysis or doubt. Let me share what this transformation looks like in a real human life. I had a friend come to me after 20 years of meditation, energy healing, certification, and countless intuitive development workshops. Despite all her training, her intuitive hits remained sporadic and unreliable. She doubted every intuitive impression, second-guessed every insight. During our work, she realized something profound. She wasn't failing at developing intuition, she was succeeding at maintaining the perceptual barrier that had been installed in her consciousness. Every time she tried to be intuitive, she was reinforcing the false belief that intuition was something she lacked and needed to acquire, rather than her natural state temporarily concealed. Once she applied the first universal principle, everything changed. Rather than attempting to become more intuitive, she simply acknowledged herself as an already active node in the cosmic intelligence network. The results were immediate and undeniable. Within days, she began receiving precise information about her clients before they shared it. Within weeks, she was accurately receiving and perceiving events before they occurred. Within months, she had developed the ability to scan physical bodies for health imbalances with pinpoint accuracy. Was this coincidence? A spontaneous awakening after years of practice, or was she finally understanding how perception actually works and removing the artificial barriers that had been suppressing her natural abilities? She didn't develop these abilities, she remembered them. This is the first universal principle, not striving to become intuitive, but recognizing yourself as perception itself. But this leads to the second universal principle of supernatural perception, which reveals where most people, even those who understand the first principle, unknowingly block their intuitive downloads. Because understanding that you exist within a field of infinite intelligence is just the beginning. The question becomes, what determines which information streams become consciously available to you? And the answer to that question is about to transform everything you thought you knew about intuitive capacities. So just stop for a moment. Stop what you're thinking right now. There's something we must address immediately, a critical insight that cannot wait another moment. In laboratories across the world, researchers studying intuitive phenomenon have discovered something shocking. The harder subjects tried to demonstrate psychic abilities, the worse they performed. Yet, when the same subjects believed they were participating in an unrelated experiment when they weren't trying at all, their intuitive accuracy increased by over 400%. Ask yourself this critical question right now. What if your conscious attempts to develop intuition are actually suppressing your natural abilities? This shatters everything we've been taught about spiritual development. The uncomfortable truth is this: effort creates interference. Striving generates static. Trying produces the exact opposite of intuitive clarity. Your intuitive failures aren't failures of capacity, they're successes of interference. Each time you strain to perceive intuitively, you're activating the analytical mind that blocks clear reception. This explains why your clearest intuitive hits arrive when you're not seeking them. In the shower, while driving, as you drift towards sleep. In those moments, your consciousness briefly slips past the perceptual gatekeepers that monitor and filter incoming information. This discovery revolutionizes our understanding of intuitive development. The path to supernatural perception isn't through more techniques or practices, it's through less interference. Just moments from now, I'll share the precise frequency code that will permanently rewrite your intuitive blueprint. This isn't a meditation technique or a visualization exercise. It's a direct neural command that deactivates the perceptual filters blocking your natural omniscience. This activation doesn't enhance your intuition, it removes what's been suppressing it since childhood. It doesn't add anything new. It restores what's been deliberately hidden from your awareness. The second universal principle of supernatural perception is vibrational receptivity, the quantum mechanism that determines which frequencies of information your consciousness can detect. Think of a radio antenna. It doesn't create the broadcast, it receives signals already traveling through space. Its effectiveness depends not on how hard it tries to capture the signals, but on how precisely it's calibrated to specific frequencies. Your intuitive faculty works identically. You're surrounded by infinite streams of information, future possibilities, others' thoughts, distant events, profound wisdom, all broadcasting continuously. The question isn't whether this information exists, the question is, are you calibrated to receive it? This brings us to a counterintuitive truth that revolutionizes intuitive development. Your heightened perception requires less effort, not more. Your supernatural awareness activates through relaxation, not concentration. Through receptivity, not striving. Through allowing, not forcing. When you strain to perceive intuitively, you create electromagnetic interference in your own field. You activate beta brainwaves that block the theta and delta states where clear perception naturally occurs. You stimulate the analytical mind that drowns out the quieter voice of direct knowing. This principle explains phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. At Stanford Research Institute, The most successful remote viewers weren't those who concentrated hardest. They were those who achieved a state they described as alert relaxation. The more they surrendered to the information stream, the more accurate their perceptions became. Russian parapsychologist Nikolai Kozyrev documented that subjects displayed 80% higher intuitive accuracy during specific lunar phases, when Earth's geomagnetic field naturally shifted into greater coherence. Their abilities weren't improving, the background interference was temporarily decreasing. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory found that intuitive accuracy skyrocketed when subjects were in deep states of resonant emotion, particularly love, wonder, and gratitude. These emotional states naturally calibrate human biofields to higher frequencies where information flows without distortion. Now, I can sense the doubt rising in some of you. I'm not naturally psychic. I've never had strong intuition. Others seem gifted, but I'm just not wired that way. These beliefs aren't observations of reality, they're perceptual prison bars. They don't describe your capabilities, they create your limitations. They're not statements about your intuitive potential. They're the very interference that blocks your natural receptivity. Every human being is born with identical intuitive hardware. What differs is the degree of suppression that occurred during development. What varies is how thoroughly your culture, educated and experiences trained you to override your direct knowing with analytical thinking. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neuroscience. This is quantum biology. This is the cutting edge of consciousness research, confirming what ancient traditions have always known. Supernatural perception is not a rare gift. It's your natural state. And as we approach the activation sequence, your consciousness is already beginning to recalibrate. The very act of absorbing this information is preparing your neurological system for what comes next. Can you feel it? That subtle shift in your awareness, that quiet awakening of dormant receptors throughout your body, that gentle recalibration of your perceptual field. Your intuitive system isn't broken or underdeveloped. It's simply been receiving on the wrong frequencies, tuned to the limitation rather than omniscience, to separation rather than interconnection, to doubt rather than knowing. And this brings us to the third and most transformative universal principle of supernatural perception, the master key that unlocks your complete intuitive activation, the principle that reveals how to permanently shift your perceptual baseline from fragmentary glimpses to continuous omniscient awareness. The third universal principle of supernatural perception is conscious calibration, the ability to precisely tune your awareness to access any information stream in existence. In quantum field theory, particles exist in states of superposition until observed. Similarly, all possible information exists simultaneously in superposition, waiting for your calibrated consciousness to collapse it into your awareness. When you master conscious calibration, you don't search for information, you tune to its frequency. You don't interpret signs and symbols. You directly download complete understanding. You don't guess or speculate. You know with unshakable certainty. Ancient seers understood this principle intuitively. The Egyptian Medu Neter hieroglyphs reference seeking with the inner eye that knows all fields. Tibetan dream yogis called it riding the light bridges between the worlds. Indigenous cultures described it as listening with the body of no boundaries. This brings us to the divine intuition code, the specific activation pattern that recalibrates your entire perceptual system at the quantum level. This code isn't just words or sounds, it's a precise vibrational instruction to your neural network. When properly activated, it bypasses the conscious mind and speaks directly to the limbic system and brain stem, where your original perceptual programming resides. The code sequence consists of three elements: a neural command, a frequency anchor, and a perceptual directive. Together they create what neuroscientists call coherent entrainment, a state where fragmented awareness unifies into whole field perception. Here's the specific activation I want you to embody. I am the awareness through which all information flows freely. My consciousness calibrates instantly to any frequency of knowing. My perception is clear, precise, and unlimited. Feel these words resonating not just in your mind, but throughout your entire nervous system. This is not an affirmation, it's a direct command to your quantum field that realigns your entire perceptual apparatus. Place your hand at the center of your chest, the thymus region where your body's electromagnetic field is strongest. And as you breathe deeply, visualize a brilliant indigo light expanding from this center, dissolving the perceptual barriers that have limited your awareness. Now say this with me again. I am the awareness through which all information flows freely. My consciousness calibrates instantly to any frequency of knowing. My perception is clear, precise, and unlimited. Now, with unwavering focus, declare this activation for the third time, not as a word, but as a command to the quantum field. Feel each syllable recalibrating your neural pathways, rewriting the perceptual software that's been operating since childhood. I am the awareness through which all information flows freely. My consciousness calibrates instantly to any frequency of knowing. My perception is clear, precise, and unlimited. Feel these words resonating. As you complete this repetition, bring both hands to your temples and sweep them outward in spherical motion, physically expressing the expansion of your perceptual field beyond its previous limitations. As this activation takes hold, you may encounter temporary resistance. 3 specific barriers commonly arise during this perceptual recalibration. First, the doubt response. Your analytical mind may attempt to evaluate whether it's working. This creates immediate interference. Remember, observation affects the outcome. Instead of questioning the process, simply notice whatever you're experiencing without judgment. Next, the overwhelm response. As your perceptual filters dissolve, you may temporarily experience sensory intensity, colors becoming brighter, sounds more distinct, emotional impressions stronger. This isn't malfunction, it's recalibration. Your system is adjusting to receiving more information than previously allowed. Finally, the regression pull. Your neurological system has operated with limited perception for decades. It will attempt to return to familiar patterns, like a muscle memory of restricted awareness. When you notice this happening, simply reissue the activation code with even greater authority. And let's do that now. I am the awareness through which all information flows freely. My consciousness calibrates instantly to any frequency of knowing. My perception is clear, precise, and unlimited. Remember, you're not learning anything. You're just returning to your original state of omniscient perception. There's nothing we're developing, no abilities to develop. You're removing the interference that's been blocking what's naturally a part of you. From this moment forward, recognize yourself as a conscious calibrator of reality, a being who navigates existence through direct knowing rather than indirect learning. When faced with uncertainty, your first response is no longer external research, but internal calibration. See yourself moving through life with supernatural clarity, instantly discerning truth from deception, opportunity from distraction, alignment from misalignment. Witness your decisions becoming more precise, your relationships more authentic, your path more aligned with your soul's highest trajectory. This conscious calibration is not temporary. It's not a state you enter and leave. It's a fundamental reconfiguration of your perceptual baseline, your new normal. From this day forward, direct knowing becomes as natural as seeing or hearing, an inherent aspect of how you navigate reality. The activation has begun. Your neural pathways are literally reorganizing themselves right now in this moment around this new perceptual blueprint. But there's one critical step that will lock in this activation permanently. A step that connects your newly awakened perception to something far greater than personal benefit. Something that will ensure this activation becomes the foundation of a completely new relationship with reality itself. What we've awakened together transcends personal enhancement. This is not merely about accessing information others cannot perceive. This activation connects you to something far greater. The collective intelligence that binds all consciousness into a singular, aware field. Throughout human history, seers and prophets didn't just predict future events. They redirected the course of entire civilizations. They didn't just read energies. They healed wounds that medicine couldn't touch. They didn't just receive visions, they transmitted wisdom that transformed how humanity understood its place in the cosmos. Your activated perception carries the same sacred responsibility. It arrives not as a gift for your benefit alone, but as a trust, a capacity meant to serve the greater unfolding of consciousness itself. Consider the generations that will follow you. Children born into a world where intuitive clarity has become increasingly rare. Young souls navigating a reality saturated with artificial intelligence but starved of authentic inner knowing. When you walk through life with activated perception, you become a living transmission of possibility. Your children, grandchildren, and every young person in your sphere witness a different way of navigating reality, not through external validation or algorithmic guidance, but through the innate wisdom that flows from within. This becomes your living legacy, not just what you accomplish or accumulate, but how you perceive, how you know, how you access truth directly rather than through intermediaries. Envision how this awakened perception transforms your closest relationships. The mother who senses her child in danger miles away and calls at precisely the right moment. The partner who intuitively understands what remains unspoken, creating space for authentic connection. The friend who perceives when another is struggling beneath a mask of composure. Your intuitive clarity becomes a sanctuary of truth in a world drowning in distortion. Your perceptual precision creates a field of protection that extends to everyone you love, guiding them toward fulfillment, shielding them from unseen dangers, connecting them to opportunities aligned with their highest evolution. The mystics and sages throughout time understood that intuition isn't merely a psychic capacity. It's a spiritual faculty. It's the mechanism through which divine intelligence communicates with individuated consciousness. It's how the universe knows itself through you. When you perceive intuitively, you're not just gathering information unavailable to others. You're participating in cosmic mind. You're embodying the universe's capacity to be self-aware. You're fulfilling the purpose for which consciousness individuated into human form to experience itself from infinite perspectives simultaneously. This is why indigenous cultures preserved their intuitive traditions despite persecution. This is why mystery schools protected these activations despite threats of death. This is why quantum physicists risk academic ridicule to document non-local consciousness. They recognized that intuitive perception isn't just advantageous, it's essential to humanity's evolution. Now let me offer you concrete direction for navigating between this activation and its complete integration into your daily awareness. First, maintain perceptual sovereignty. In the coming days, you'll encounter situations that test your trust in direct knowing. When your intuition contradicts external evidence, remember that most evidence is simply consensus reality, not ultimate truth. Honor what you perceive directly, even when it challenges conventional understanding. Second, implement intuitive calibration before significant decisions. Take a conscious breath, place your hand over your heart and silently declare, "I calibrate to optimal clarity now." Then notice your first impression, not what you think about the situation, but what you know before thinking begins. Third, create dedicated space for expanded perception. Spend 20 minutes daily in receptive silence, not meditation with a focus, but alert receptivity to whatever information streams through your consciousness. Record these perceptions in a dedicated journal, noting their accuracy as events unfold. As you follow these practices, what begins as conscious process becomes automatic function. What starts as deliberate calibration becomes your natural perceptual state. The boundary between intuitive and ordinary awareness gradually dissolves until direct knowing becomes your primary mode of perception. This activation is not temporary. It isn't a spiritual experience that fades with time. It's a fundamental recalibration of how your consciousness interfaces with information, a restoration of your original perceptual design. And now we approach the final integration, the process that ensures this activation becomes your permanent reality rather than a momentary expansion. This is where intuitive awakening transforms from one isolated experience to continuous states of being. Are you prepared to complete what we've begun? You stand now at the threshold of integration, where ancient wisdom meets modern neuroscience, where quantum understanding meets your personal experience, where potential transforms into permanent capacity. What we've explored together, the quantum perception field, vibrational receptivity, conscious calibration, these aren't separate techniques. They form a unified technology of consciousness that restores your natural state of omniscient awareness. The universe is not testing your intuitive abilities. It isn't hiding information until you become worthy of receiving it. It's simply responding to your perceptual configuration, reflecting with perfect precision the degree of knowing your consciousness is calibrated to receive. And now, with the divine intuition code activated in your energy field, you stand at an evolutionary crossroads unlike any humanity has faced before. Not a choice between knowing and not knowing, but a choice between remembering or continuing to forget the perceptual birthright that defines our species. This is the moment of perceptual rebirth, the instant where possibility crystallizes into capacity, where dormant neural pathways awaken to their original design. You're not limited by what your five senses can detect. You are expanded by what your consciousness can perceive. You're not bound by the visible spectrum. You are freed by the invisible realms your awareness can navigate. You are not restricted to linear time. You are liberated into the eternal now, where all information exists simultaneously. The intuitively awakened human isn't waiting to be created, they're waiting to be remembered. The omniscient perception isn't hoping to be achieved, it's demanding to be recognized. The supernatural awareness isn't something to develop, it's something to unveil. And in this sacred moment, as these words resonate through your being, a profound remembering is occurring. The veil between ordinary and extraordinary perception is dissolving. The barrier between conscious and superconscious awareness is fading. Not in some distant future, not as a fleeting possibility, but here, now, in this breath. I invite you with the full authority of your sovereign consciousness to make this decision now. Place both hands over your temples, feel the electromagnetic field of your brain, and with your next breath, silently declare within yourself, I now permanently activate the intuitive perception that is my natural state. This is my reclamation. This is my remembering. This is my reality now. It is done. Now let me give you the exact protocol for the next 24 hours, the critical period where your perceptual awakening must be anchored in neural pathways. First, upon waking tomorrow, before engaging with technology or other people, Sit in silence for 3 minutes. Place your hands at the base of your skull where your brain stem meets your spinal column. Take 7 slow breaths and silently affirm, "My perception is clear, precise, and unlimited." Second, create a physical anchor for your awakened perception. Find a small object in nature, a crystal, a stone, a leaf or shell. Hold it in your hands as you declare, "This object now carries the frequency of my intuitive clarity." Carry this object with you throughout the day, touching it whenever you wish to recalibrate your perception. Third, practice intuitive scanning with 3 people you encounter tomorrow. As you interact with them, silently ask your intuitive system, "What do I need to know about this person that isn't being verbally communicated?" Notice the immediate impression that arrives, not what you think, but what you know. Fourth, before sleep tomorrow night, document at least 5 instances where you received information intuitively. These might be subtle knowings, unexpected insights, or precise awareness of things outside your sensory range. This documentation creates neural reinforcement of your awakened perception. Beyond these immediate 24 hours, I want to give you a 30-day protocol that will strengthen this activation until it becomes your permanent perceptual baseline. For the first 10 days, focus on perceptual expansion. Each morning, spend 5 minutes in receptive awareness, not focusing on anything specific, but allowing your consciousness to expand beyond your physical body. Notice what information becomes available when you perceive from this expanded state. For days 11 through 20, practice intuitive dialogue. When facing decisions or questions, create an internal conversation with your intuitive intelligence. Ask specific questions and notice immediate responses that arrive. Document the accuracy of these exchanges to reinforce your trust in direct knowing. For days 21 through 30, implement conscious reality navigation. Begin making decisions based primarily on intuitive guidance rather than logical analysis. Start with smaller choices and progressively apply this awareness to more significant life decisions as your confidence grows. By day 30, the evidence will be undeniable. Your perceptual reality will have fundamentally transformed. What once seemed mysterious will have become your normal way of knowing. What previously required effort will have become effortless. And as you move forward with this awakened perception, remember this essential truth. You haven't just enhanced a psychic ability, you've reclaimed your natural relationship with information itself. Your intuition is not a sixth sense. It is your first sense, the primary perception from which all others derive. It's not a supplemental ability, it's the foundation of consciousness itself. From this day forward, may you navigate existence not as one who occasionally glimpses truth, but as truth itself perceiving through human form. May every intuitive knowing remind you of the vast intelligence of which you are an expression. And may your awakened perception illuminate paths of possibility for countless others still walking in the darkness of limited awareness. I invite you to share your intuitive experiences in the comments below. The specific insights, the unexpected knowings, the perceptual breakthroughs that emerge in the days and weeks ahead after listening to this activation. Your testimony becomes a beacon that guides others toward their own remembering. You haven't just completed an activation, you've initiated a remembering. You haven't just learned a technique, you've reclaimed a birthright, the birthright of clear perception, the birthright of direct knowing, the birthright that has been waiting for you since the moment consciousness first individuated into human form. Welcome home to your true awareness. Welcome to the reality revolution.